Hello, beautiful women. I am thrilled to offer this bonus podcast. Recently, members of my community and I had an inspiring and uplifting talk with Katie Silcox, New York Times bestselling author of Healthy, Happy, Sexy, the founder of Shakti School, an Ayurveda wellness certification program, and a thought-provoking leader in the wellness space. Katie offered a beautiful grounding meditation and shared how Ayurveda can support women in midlife, a hot flash reframe, and so much more. It was so good that I knew I had to share it here on the podcast. There's also a special invitation to join Shakti School if you want to explore Ayurveda even more deeply. Shakti School is a unique wellness coaching program that combines Ayurveda, divine feminine principles, and Tantra to create a holistic curriculum that really supports a woman's physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. How do I know it's so fantastic? I graduated from Shakti School, which is really nothing short of life-changing. Many women from my community go on to study there, and it's that good. So if it's calling to you in 2025, you can learn more with the link in my show notes, and members of my community can get $100 off with the code LISA100. Either way, I know you're going to get a ton from this conversation, so let's dive in. Welcome to the Goddess School podcast, where Eastern wisdom meets Western mysticism. I'm your host, Lisa Marie Rankin, author, teacher, and Ayurvedic wellness coach, here to help you reclaim your feminine superpowers. And I am so glad you're here. Listen, women are magical. They are intuitive, creative, wise, and magnetic. However, in today's fast-paced world, these gifts often get buried under a more masculine way of life. Together, we'll awaken those powers. In each episode, I'll take you through sacred teachings like Ayurveda, shadow work, and the mysteries of archetypes and rituals, so you can live with more clarity, synchronicity, and joy in all realms of life, like relationships, health, money, and more. So let's dive in so you can make the most of your one mythic life. The veil is parting. Let's begin. Welcome, beautiful women. Well, I am very excited to introduce you to Katie Silcox. So she is my teacher. She is an author. Many of you have been reading Healthy, Happy, Sexy with me. And she's also the founder of Shakti School, where I went to school. It's just this, I can't even say enough good things about it because, well, one, it's just so creative to have like divine feminine wisdom, Ayurveda, and Tantra. It just seems magical to me that you would be able to have all of those. I haven't seen anything else like it, and I'm just thrilled that I had got the opportunity to go there. So without further ado, I would love to pass it over to Katie.
It's so lovely to be here with you guys. I always enjoy being with Lisa Marie, and they say that you attract the type of students and people to your clubs and your communities and your offerings that are like you. And we tend to kind of vibe in the same direction. So I want to kind of just take a moment to just do it. And then we'll talk about what we did instead of leading with our conceptual mind, which is also fun and fine. Let's just lead with something else. And so then maybe we can experience it. And so we'll just kind of sit. And if you feel like closing your eyes and being willing to be with this moment right now, feeling that you can let the past go, and that's easier said than done, and that you can also let the future go, and that we can meet together in this place that we share. When we move out of the past and out of the future, we have this moment right now together. And as we turn our attention from the outside world to the inside world, we're left with what is actually raw inside of us, what's actually here. And the breath is this really portable guide into the present moment, feeling the inhalation and the way that for almost all of us, we can sense this way that the inhale opens us up and expands us, and we can invoke that movement downward into the legs and the pelvis. We can feel the way that the exhale, it's like a closing in, a drawing towards, the navel draws back towards the spine, and there's a sense of returning. And we have this constant pulse of expansion and returning. And if we didn't label everything, if we let the conscious mind go, what would it feel like to open deeply to what is here, what we like, what we don't like, what we prefer, what we would avoid? And then allowing ourselves to come into this place of the heart and feeling the way in which the heart in this system is a receiver, a receptive place. What would it feel like to allow the heart to open backwards, not forwards, back, 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 back. Softening back through the layers of our tissue and our muscle and our fascia and our fat and our bone and our blood. Softening backwards towards the shoulder blades, the physical heart, back to the spine, back to the skin of the back body, and even back behind us beyond the physical. What would it feel like to really let the heart be receiving and moving back? And sensing this connection down into the ground and on the horizontal plane through the heart, and then allowing the throat and the head and crown to just be open upwards. And so you can feel yourself inhabiting all of yourself, all the way down, all the way up, and all the way out to all sides, as small or as big as you want to be today. And feel that we can kind of rest in this place of being something of a container, a bowl. And we can feel that just for these last few minutes of this practice, that especially today, as we move into the season that we're in, that we can kind of turn things around, the arrows of attention that go outward, redirect inwardly. And you can feel your energy, your attention, your prana gathering in, and setting an intention for this dark time of the year for many of us. Planting a seed, if you will, into the darkness of the night and the soil of what you want to birth in the spring and the summer to come. And when you're ready, you can gently, as you feel that that process has come to a completion, you can start to let your eyes open, and we'll come back. As we kind of transition, I think most of us here know what it feels like to not be able to get away with what we used to be able to get away with. Raise your hand if that's you. Okay, right. So I would do things in college that the Katie of now would would take me out for a week, right? And so the way that we understand this life walk, this journey in Ayurveda is that when we are young, when we are born, when we're babies, we're little balls of water and earth. And some of you may have those types of beings around you right now. And Lisa Marie has a puppy, and it's the same thing with puppies. Little things, whether they be a plant or an animal, but especially a human, squirt liquids out of their bodies, right? They are snotty, they are drooling, they cry, right? And they are chubby and juicy, and you want to take their toes and put them in your mouth because there's something about that juice, that sap in Ayurveda we call the rasa of life that we want to eat up, right? Obviously not really, but this idea you all can feel. And when I speak about the juicy quality of a chubby, cute baby, all of us know what I'm talking about, whether we're from India or Antarctica. And this is the essence of Ayurveda. There is this archetypal realm, this intuitive, natural knowingness that all of us possess around what it means to be young. What it means to be young is to be full of what one of my teachers calls the greenness of life. You're green. You're also dumb. You are not smart. And especially when you're 15 and 16 and 17, it's really funny. You think you are. And that's so funny. If you have a 17 or an 18 or a 15 or 14-year-old, it's so funny how much confidence we used to have in our correctness. This is a part of that sap and greenness of youth. And Ayurveda says this is the period of Ojas, which is actually the name of my Bernedoodle for a reason. And Ojas is this resiliency, and it's the reason why we can get away with so much, and we can get out of balance, and we can drink and smoke and stay up all night, and we can recover. And in the tradition, we learn that some of us are born just by nature with more of this than others. And some of you in the room might be like, you know what? I've barely been able to get away with anything, even in college. And, we would consider you a little bit more of a sensitive creature. And so, but we all start off as the greenness, as the sap. And then you move into this next stage of life, which many of you currently find yourself in right now, which is called the fire stage. And this is when you have your first heartbreak, and you have your first midlife crisis, and you're in what I call the stress sandwich of life, where you have maybe kids on one side and aging parents on the other side, and you're also on the earlier end of that fire spectrum. You're attempting to create a life for yourself through a career or a marriage. You're figuring out what you want to do with your life, and you're solidifying what that is, and you're growing that business or that family, or both, for many women. And we call this the fire time because it's intense. And we call this the fire time spiritually because it's when you will be presented with the things that occur that burn your ego, often to smithereens. The teachings say it's when you learn your hardest lessons, but it's also when the most light is available because you're burning and you're a flame. And that flame has radiance, and it has warmth, and it has charisma, and it has uniqueness to it. And it's attractive. And we can suffer from many of the things that we suffer from during this period that many of you find yourselves in right now, which is inflammation and burnout and insomnia and overwhelm and digestive issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's when these things start to flare. You see, we even have it in English, in our language. Spiritually, it's often when we are presented with our most difficult learning lessons. And then some of you in the room are maybe at the end of that period, and you're moving into the next period. Or you're fully, entrenched in the last period that the yogis speak of, or the Ayurvedic teachings talk about as well. And that is, you are in the period where everything starts to shrink and dry. And we don't have to be upset about this. It happens to plants. It happens to animals. It happens to humans. And by the way, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you already start to know this. My teacher used to say, everything from this moment of fire into air, period, is shrinking and drying. And so what happens? We start to get Instagram ads for collagen powder and vitamin E oil for our faces and Botox and this and that. And everything that we are being offered is about replumpification. Get me juicy again. Top to bottom, ladies. So the idea with Ayurveda is that how can we keep these ladies as juicy as possible for as long as possible in hopefully a way that feels balancing and natural and nurturing to them, while at the same time not demonizing and denying the royalty of that third stage. The third stage is the time of the air and the space. And yes, it's the time where things shrink and dry. And what that means is you'll have a few more smile lines and a few more wrinkles on your face. But what doesn't get a lot of press in Cosmo magazine is that this is the period of the queen in Ayurveda. This is the period where you are no longer bleeding, which is a fire time. The blood is withheld, and the energy that was once moving down and out of you through menstrual blood or through pregnancy is now being held up and in. It can move to the heart. And now the woman that's been, quote, losing that energy each month has it retained for her. And this is where in lots of women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, as we move perimenopause to menopause and postmenopause, this is a time where women, if they are loved and held, they can actually get more energy than ever. And suddenly they want to do volunteer work or start a business or be an artist or start a spiritual practice. And so this third stage of life of air and space is the period where the stress sandwich is no longer affecting us as much. Modern sociological studies support this idea. It has been stated in a recent study that people, when they hit around 18, 19, 20, their happiness levels start to plummet. And they steadily from 18 start to go down, 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 down. And they reach their peak unhappiness in their 40s. And then in their 40s, it starts to change. Trend starts to turn upwards, and the happiness starts to go higher than it was when they were 18. And now you're in your 60s. And in 60s, 65, especially, women report being happier than they've ever been. This comports with Ayurvedic medicine, which says it's because they don't give a shit anymore. They don't care what you think about them. They are not trying to impress you. The things that were so reactive and annoying to me in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I just can't be bothered. And hopefully you've done some work on yourself and you know all the great things about yourself and you love yourself and you know your little tricks and demons and you've learned to integrate those and love those, and no one's pulling the wool over your eyes, especially you to you anymore. And in the air and space era, you are able to let go. You're able to detach. You're able to move your last energy to the things that really, really, really matter. And in the tradition, that has a lot to do with your spirit. And we can prioritize spirit at any age, but particularly in the time of a woman's life that we call the winter solstice. This time is the most beautiful, sacred, holy of her life, precisely because it is when she is most spirit and least physical material. So as we begin to lose our plumpness and our juiciness and our fertility and our sexy nature, we begin to gain this whole different beauty that is more radiant, that is more authentic, that is more real, that is cut from the cords of any form of need or manipulation. And it's that realm that is the realm of what we call pure prana. And prana is a yogi word that can be translated in many ways. Often it's translated as energy or life force, but one of the ways that I've experienced it and like to translate it is this is Holy Spirit. It's your energy. And it's been with you when egg and sperm met and you maybe plopped in there. And it's going to be with you when you take your last breath and you move on to whatever happens next that none of us really know. So that's sort of an overview of the way that Ayurveda understands the life cycle. And so what we're attempting to do is honor the beauty and the life-giving parts of those life cycles and not only want to stay in one, while at the same time acknowledging that there is a sap, there is a radiance, there is a juice to our health that we have a lot more of when we're young. And so how can we, through our lifestyle, through our diet, through our habits, cultivate the sap, the juice, longer and longer and longer? And so you have these fun stories in the tradition of like 80-year-old or 70-year-old women in a photo standing beside their like 20-year-old daughters. Then their 14-year-old daughters. It's like, wow, that fertility she was able to keep for longer. That's not necessarily the goal I have or that of Shakti School, but you do have these old sort of mythological stories of these yoginis who could hold their sap for longer and longer in periods of time. And so the question is, well, how do I do that? Well, the teachings tell us what's the number one way to keep what they call your ojas, right? Your vitality, your youthfulness, your sap. What's the number one way? And you may be thinking, well, it must be these Ayurvedic herbs that everyone's talking about. Well, what are they? I want to take all of these nice carrots from India. And then you may be thinking, oh, it must be these tantric sex manuals that are laying around that I need to find. And it must be these amazing meditations and such. Well, what's the secret recipe? And then you read the ancient teachings and it says the number one way to preserve ojas is to avoid the things that disturb your mind. Why do they always have to humble us? We don't want to do that. We just want to take the cream. We just want to eat the carrots, please. It's a little harder to avoid the things that disturb our mind. Now, that's not to say we run away from anything that's challenging, but what it is an invitation into peace. It's an invitation into love. To remain juicy for as long as possible, we attempt to remain as calm and kind as possible while in the storm of life. So first and foremost, that's the goal. And then everything else is sort of lining up into that. So, okay, if that's the goal, to do my best to create a scenario where my mind can be as peaceful as possible, what are the foods that work for my body that bring harmony and restoration and peace? And it's not the same for me as it is for you, right? We've all kind of have our own operating system. Then there's the piece of, well, since we understand the qualities of youth and juiciness and resiliency, which we said are earth and water, and we understand that that's the kind of lubricating, cooling, slightly warming, sometimes watery way, as we age, it becomes more and more important to eat foods that are well cooked, well spiced, and in the tradition, they call it unctuousness, which means good fats. So something like olive oil or coconut oil or ghee, avocado oil, tallow, butter. These are what our ancestors ate. And those fats and spices are very useful in keeping the ojas alive. But it's really, and again, now we're moving into that winter season. So that's going to be more the qualities of warm and wet. And then if we're in the summer or we're in a really hot place, we're going to want to cultivate the qualities of cool and wet. So it's what I put inside my body in terms of food. But it's also what I put in my body in terms of oils. And so putting oil on the skin, especially during this period, can be very helpful. Sesame oil is the most warm, but I find it to be quite not a smell that I want to smell like. So sesame oil mixed with something else like almond oil, or even I do really well even in the winter with sesame oil with a little bit of coconut oil, or sesame oil with jojoba oil. But really, what I tell people is coconut oil is cooling. So if you're only doing coconut oil all over your body all winter long, it's going to be chilly. Other than that, most oils we do really well with throughout the year. Most oils are they're oily and they're going to be heavy. So putting oils on your body is really wonderful. And then understanding that this time it's interesting that this is also when we tend to overbook ourselves. And we have lots of activities and parties. And if you have kids, they have concerts and, parties themselves, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a period where if we can say no to activities more than we say yes, we will be greatly benefited when the spring, late spring and early spring come and with our energy. It is particularly true during the winter solstice, which we're entering in currently, from the time of 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you have a party you're supposed to go to that starts at 5:30 or 6 or 6:30 or 7, and you find yourself feeling a lot of resistance right now, it could be because intuitively we know 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. in the winter time in the Taoist tantric tradition are the time where a woman multiplies the boons of her practices 100-fold. So what you do, especially during this period of the winter solstice, whatever the medicine is that you need at this time, it could be meditation, it could be oiling your body, it could be taking a bath, it could be reading a book, whatever, the deep self-inquiry. But what you're doing from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. during the winter solstice, the benefits of that can be multiplied 10-fold, 100-fold. So this is a wonderful time, the winter from 5 to 7, to really dial it down, to go inward. Last night I laid in bed and, you can be spiritual about it and like do a meditation, but you can also just watch a funny Christmas movie. And I just put a castor oil pack on my belly and laid down with a hot water bottle at 5 p.m. and kind of moved out of that cocoon around 7 p.m. And it's just a wonderful rejuvenation period. I just put out a PDF of winter Ayurveda products. So it's not my favorite thing to just talk about products all the time. It's kind of boring. I'd rather talk about God and whatever the opposite of God might be. But what we can do, Lisa, is give your community that PDF. If you guys want my favorite winter products, we'll make sure we get that to you guys so you can kind of lean into some of these ancient Ayurvedic practices.
Thank you so much. That's so inspiring. And yes, would love the PDF with the winter products. Well, I always have questions about things. So Katie, I think that I was listening to a podcast with you and Mary Thompson. And I used to have a photographic memory, it felt like. And I think with midlife, I don't seem to have the same recall as I once did. But I believe, because I know we have some women in the community now that have been experiencing hot flashes. And you were talking about almost like this beautiful reframe of something burning up. And I can't remember if it was like burning up karma, but I remember like making a mental note that I want to go back to that. Was that a conversation with you and Mary Thompson? And was there a flash reframe?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, some of you are in my school and you know this. We have this mudra. It's a hand gesture that's very helpful for understanding any question we have, because when we feel that we're in a paradox, I think we're really close to truth. We're close to reality. If you don't believe me, just think about someone that you really, 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 really love, and you have to have spent a lot of time together. Don't you also kind of hate them at times? This is what it means to be actually in the field of love, is that we feel the opposite force. And so with any question in Ayurveda, when we take it from a spiritual perspective, it shifts things greatly. And I think that can be helpful. And so on this hand, you have hot flashes, and they're annoying and they wake you up and you're drenched in the bed and it's like, what's wrong with me? And when that occurs, it's a sign. It can be a sign that the nervous system was overactive that day, or that you ate too much spicy food or alcohol, or something was in the system that caused inflammation. There can be a number of reasons for hot flashes. There's some sort of hormonal imbalance that usually is led by travel or stress, etc. And then there are herbs that help mitigate those symptoms. Something like shatavari, that is the carrot that I was joking about before. She who has 100 husbands. It's a root from India called shatavari, and it's wonderful for lubricating the system and bringing a coolness to the hormones. And it's a phytoestrogen, meaning it will help balance adaptogenically the estrogen and progesterone levels in the body. So it can be really nice, right? And that's just one. There are many other things that, we work with both in Ayurveda and in other pharmacopoeias. Sitali breathing, curling the tongue, pulling cool air. This is good if you wake up in the middle of the night and you are overheating, to do that breath for 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, and pull and sip that cold air into the body, soothing the nervous system. We start every class in Shakti School with breathing into the pelvis, the in and down, the earthing and the grounding is the cooling in the water. So, there are all these methodologies, which is why we created like a whole year-long program, because the question of hot flashes is not a one pill answer. It's like a whole inquiry into the system. And when you heal on one level, you heal all your symptoms because they all have the same root. So that's over here. And that's called Ayurvedic medicine, right? And preventative healthcare. And ouch, this hurts. Put the Band-Aid on. And I want to just tell you how much this is valid. Like, it's normal to want to feel better. And we live in a time where our bodies are under the onslaught of 100 to 1,000 times more chemicals than our ancestors. Our lymphatics can't handle it. So something like self-massage and sauna and Epsom salt baths and dry brushing, there's a reason, and exercise, that those things are so imperative and so popular right now. I say all that lengthy statement to say how important this side is for feeling good. And then there's this other part, which is this material plane is a realm of not feeling good. It's what it is. It's like half the class is like, I have to go. You know what I mean? Like this is the realm the Buddha called the realm of the suffering. And our ancestors may not have had the chemicals that we have, but they had other challenges as a collective, right, that we don't. And man, they were resilient, right? And so over on the spiritual lens around hot flashes, around menopause, around everything really, is that estrogen and progesterone are no longer coding your system and letting you get away with it. Estrogen is cooling. Progesterone and estrogen together create a sex hormone that is in fact the opposite of a stress hormone, which is hot. Estrogen and progesterone are cooling. So the things you used to be able to do, the reactivity you used to be able to get away with, the foods, the alcohol, whatever it is, right? You no longer have estrogen and progesterone coating everything with a layer of everything's okay, everything's going to be okay. That's gone. And so now, because you're a queen, you actually have earned the right to be able to feel what's actually happening in your body and in your emotions. And you can feel how it inflames you, and you can feel the way that it activates you. And from a Kundalini yoga perspective, that which was repressed as a younger woman that may have needed to be repressed because you had little kids or you weren't mature enough, whatever reason, that's no longer there. And so the old memories, the old anger and the old frustration and the old sadness and the old fear no longer are getting that wet coating, and they're no longer being held down by wetness and heaviness. There's fire. And fire has the capacity to bring things forward to be seen. That's what fire is. It's a light. So on a spiritual level, we were speaking with Mary T about this is the awakening of our truth. And we can use that heat and that fire to be able to really learn how to stay with discomfort and stay with our feelings and stay. And then, go get an herb and, do what you need. But I love that reframe because we can see everything that's happening to us as negative and as symptomology when some of the time, and sometimes it's just symptom, But sometimes it's actually that which has been repressed moving to the surface because you've been made ready for it. Yeah, Jackie.
So I'm beyond the hot flashes. And sometimes I feel like I mourn myself, my old self. It's just for like a little bit. It's almost like, oh, I see you. I see you there. And I know your dreams, and some of them haven't been fulfilled. And I still, like, I find myself like so passionate about these ideas that I have, unable to finish a lot of them. So also feeling like, wow, well, I still feel like I'm 18 years old sometimes. Like, what is this? So I just find the whole thing very interesting. And maybe if you could, talk about that mourning a little bit, if that.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. Two things I heard you say I kind of want to highlight just for all of us. And I appreciate you, Jackie. There is a sparkle of who you are that's forever. And maybe you describe it as that 18-year-old, but it's just you, and she's riding with you. And that sparkle is ageless. And I think we can really see it in women like you, Jackie, who, may we all be so blessed, right? To be able to shine that in the third stage. And those are the people that we want to be around, right? And then you have folks who that sparkle goes away, and we call that like, she's so old and set in her ways, right? And it's like, then you see these old people that I mean, way older than any of us, who are really old. And yet there's this light and there's this smile, and they're struggling with real health issues. Because let's be honest, it doesn't get easier. It doesn't. It gets harder physically. And yet there's this acceptance, there's this light, there's this beauty, there's this wisdom. And that is what we are really, hopefully, cultivating. So I think maybe that's that sparkly you that's just always going to be there. And also to the grief and the mourning of that which may not or shall not finish and be completed. And in the stages of development, according to the Vedic system, there's actually 4 stages. There's the baby, there's the teenage, the brahmachari, the one who's like a student. Then there's the householder who's like kids, job, whatever, right? And then there's the 4th, which is the spirit mama, right? Like the spirit father. And that's when the old school tradition, you would send your elders out to the forest. And the joke is that in America, we put them in RVs and send them across the country, and so you can go to any campground across America and you see people in the later stages of life. It's just so interesting. And they're literally on the edges of the culture. But the encouragement during the 4th stage is do what you want in that beginning period. Get the desires out. And knowing that there probably will be things that remain unsaid or undone or undreamed or incomplete, and that is okay, and that's a part of it. But the encouragement from a tantric perspective was to fulfill your desires so that you can be liberated from them. And in a traditional Hindu tantric Vedic sense, Jackie, if you didn't fulfill them, don't worry, you'll get to try again. And so like the idea was like, what do you want to do? And like really feel it and really live it and really love it, and then let it go. And in any letting go, I mean, if you have a child, you know this better than anyone. Tell a mom, just let go of your kid. It's like, F you. Like, this came out of my body. Are you kidding? Like, but even to mothers, it's like, that letting go is actually the biggest part of the spiritual process and the best thing for your child, actually. And that love connection remains. But Tantra is very different than many of the religions that we grew up in. It says, figure out what the soul wants to experience and do your best to give your soul the fulfillment of that. And then you'll be able to see, I got it. Was it good for me? Or was it not good for me? And then you will see, okay. And then they also say, So that can happen. Oh, that was good. Or, whoa, I wanted that so bad. It was so bad for me. Don't want it anymore. Or you get it, you try it on, and you go, oh, I really thought I wanted that, but I don't want that at all. I want something else. And then you move to the next. And so it's this real encouragement of the experience of the desire so as to move beyond the desire. And there's always a grieving in that.
Thank you so much. And beautiful inquiry and question, Jackie. Thank you. So I know we only have 5 minutes left or so. So thank you so much, Katie. But I also just would love to maybe just spend 5 minutes. One, if you could just share a little bit. I know Ayurveda level 1 starts in a month. Was it January 15th or so? And maybe just a little bit of information. And I've gone through it. So I'm here for you women in the community if you have any questions about it after. But I would love just, Katie, for maybe you to describe it in your own words or anything that you would like to share.
Well, some of you have done the program. Lisa's done it. It's so many things. It's hard to talk about. But if I could say it was one thing, it's a real gathering of women that want to know who they are and want to lean into not only these ancient traditions that we love and respect from our foremothers and forefathers, but also the newness and the you-ness and the uniqueness, and to be able to really honor both of those. We're a very non-dogmatic, non-ideological school for Ayurveda where we teach women how to both be health coaches for other people if they choose to do that, but really how to be their own biggest health coach and ally, and to learn these things that many of us, if in fact most of us, just weren't taught on how to just naturally take care of our, not only our physical body, but our energy body and our spiritual body and our mental body. I always say we are not therapy, but we're therapeutic. And so it's just this amazing, magical lady life empowerment secret club that's happening. It's happening January 15th. I would be more than overjoyed to have any of you in the room with us in 2025. We do give a good discount to you guys that come from Lisa. And yeah, we're starting on the 15th. If you want to talk to Lisa about it, or you want to talk to one of our coaches, yeah, Keisha's here. Keisha was one of our shining stars from level 1. And we have women, very, very young, but also I think Tara is here. Tara, with all love and respect, is one of the oldest women that's ever done it. And she is just like, my God, every time I see her in the room, I feel like I'm getting sort of a download. So we have women from all ages, and we work hard to cultivate that with our marketing. We want as many women from as many diverse backgrounds and ages and life experiences, and yes, even political affiliations. Like, we love all women, and they're all welcome there. So I could go on and on and on. I'm the lead teacher for level 1, but we have 20 teachers all teaching both from Western medical science as well as Eastern philosophy. And yeah, if you have any heart to join, just don't hesitate to let us support you in that. We have amazing payment plans. We make a joke that we're like Oprah. We're like, you get a special payment plan, you get a special payment plan. So we're really good about making it happen for women and their budgets. We realize not everyone is super, super wealthy, but we try to make it happen for you if you're meant to be there. So thank you for letting me share, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time. I will also say, when I went to Ayurveda school, I didn't really know why I was going. It was just something that I was being called to do. It just sounded really interesting. And I didn't necessarily think I'd be a coach or do anything in the field with Ayurveda, but I was just like, oh, I need to do this. And those who are in my community, when we talk about the feminine, that's a lot of that is honoring that small yes. I feel this pull. I feel this desire. I'm going to trust it. And I'm so glad I did, because that's one of the reasons why I'm with all of you women today. So, but I want to say that you can do it personally. You don't necessarily need to do it because oh, I want to get into a career with this,
right.
But you might, and you just don't know. But, so it's really kind of tuning inward to see how does this feel? And, with a sense of curiosity.
Yeah. Lisa Marie's being quite humble. She's one of our teachers now and such a big part of our community. And it's been so awesome to watch you, Lisa, just like take off and blossom. And I'm going to take all the credit for it in Shakti School. No, just kidding. Like, it's all you. But if you are interested, theshaktischool.com, info@theshaktischool.com, but make sure you let us know that you came through Lisa, and you can write Lisa. I'm sure she won't mind. And yeah, we'll get you in, and it's starting in like less than 4 weeks. So don't sit on it too long. We'd love to have you. Again, if you need a payment plan, we'll make it happen for you. I think I'm hard selling it because the women that come through Lisa are just such good parts of our school. So we tend to love the ladies that come from Lisa. But thank you so much, Lisa. I've loved being with you guys. I feel truly humbly like I'm learning as I speak, and your questions inspire me and keep me on track. And God knows I'm not the most disciplined little monkey. So this school has also been just such a blessing for me to just really stay in these practices and stay in these teachings. And we meet every Wednesday live from 2 to 5, but you can watch it anytime, during the week. And I always feel like I grew up Southern Baptist. And so it's like, oh, we're going to Lady Church from 2 to 5 on Wednesday nights. It's just obviously non-religious in some senses, but it does feel like a spiritual family. So thank you guys. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Katie. And I know you need to jump off. I will stay on if anyone has any questions. I also added a link, and you also have a coupon code as well, too, if you want to join.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in to the Goddess School podcast. I hope today's episode inspired you to reclaim your feminine magic. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the show, and if you've enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review on Apple. If you want to dive deeper into divine feminine archetypes and reconnect with your power, check out my book, The Goddess Solution. It's packed with ancient goddess wisdom for the modern woman. You can find the book on Amazon, and the link is in the show notes. And if you are ready to embrace these practices alongside a global sisterhood, I invite you to join my Divine Feminine Mystery School, Enlivened. It's a supportive space to embody these teachings with a fantastic community of like-minded women. You'll find the link in the show notes. Remember, the goddess isn't a deity outside of you. She's an aspect of your highest self. You are the goddess. Until next time, my friend.